So did you leave the church because you were hurt by people?
That's the first question that I get asked. And, everyone has disappointments with people, but that's not why. So many of the people that I met there in church, I have loved and respected. And some of the most wonderful people that I've ever met are my former pastors. And so I just hold them dearly in my heart. I left the church not because of people, but because of disappointment with God, with the process, with the silence of God. Jesus says that he stands at the door and knocks, and whoever lets him in, he'll have a relationship with them. And my experience was almost dominated by me being at the door and knocking and wanting more than I ever got. And then finally looking over to the side and looking through the windows and seeing that no one was home.
Were you a real believer?
Yeah, that is a question that people are going to ask too. So for 35 years, I talked to Jesus incessantly. I read my Bible every day, sometimes for hours a day. I prayed. I sung songs to God in my private life. I went to church 3 times a week. I went to Bible college. I did every pastoral role there was in a small church with, not like the financial compensation piece really. And so I gave everything I had to it. And I can honestly say that I loved Jesus. And if I wasn't a real believer, then I don't know what else it would take to be one. So when I was in high school, I had a form of obsessive compulsive disorder called scrupulosity. And it's a form of OCD that focuses on religious obsessions. So I would pray constantly and read my Bible constantly and feel like I always had to ask for forgiveness. And I was able to hide it mostly. Unfortunately, I discovered, that it was a mental illness and got help for it. So people might say, well, okay, maybe you just had you went overboard, like you had a problem, with it. And I think that there's probably a legitimate argument there. But I would also argue that if you look at Scripture, what I was doing was actually living the life that's prescribed. So I took the Bible seriously, and it says to pray incessantly. And I did, without ceasing.
So what if you're wrong?
Yeah, so I definitely could be wrong, and there will be a large price to pay. That whole talk is called Pascal's wager. It basically says that the stakes are so high, heaven or hell, that you might as well err on the side of believing in God, because if you die and there is no God, then that's what, it wasn't a difference. And if you die and there is a God, then you got this huge benefit. And that never sat right with me, that was the way of a right relationship, to have some kind of contingency on it. I believe that if there is a loving God that's omniscient, that knows all my thoughts and all my desires and everything I've gone through, he will respect that I have tried to have an honest journey and I gave it my best. And now I'm trying to still be honest with the reality that I'm confronted with.
So, what would it take for you to believe?
So I don't know. I've heard a good example would be for an amputee to grow a leg back or an arm back. I know that sounds kind of silly, but I don't see how that's any different than a claim of a miracle that something internally was fixed in a body that we can't see. But the truth is that, again, if there is an all-knowing God, he knows my heart, he knows my mind, he knows what it will take for me to believe. And he knows how to present that to me in a way that protects my free will. And what I'm trying to do is to say I will remain open to reality and truth, whatever it is. And so if I'm presented with something like that, my heart will be open to God in that case. So that's where I'm leaving it.
Why are you saying all of this?
Yeah, so it's not something that I came about lightly, as you know. I've been thinking about it for years. I started writing a book, a novel, And my goal in writing the novel when I started was to write a Christian character that had an authentic voice that I had as a teenager. That had both sort of the normal sinful side of me and the side that wanted to believe and talk to God. I thought I could achieve a story like that. Over the years, I processed my deconversion through that novel and through that character. And so when I finally did sort of leave the church and deconvert, the character also did. So anyway, I want to share that story. I want to start promoting that novel. And I didn't want people to sort of be surprised and out of the blue, because people know me as a pastor and those kind of things. So I thought I would at least get out clearly kind of some of my thoughts in this video. The second part is that I think that everyone deserves to state what they're feeling and to say their truth and to express themselves. And I'm trying to be honest and vulnerable and brave in whatever that means in doing that.
What would you like your Christian friends and family to know? I think that's a pretty big question.
I would like people to know that I'm still me. I haven't changed. I just have been going through this process. And if you've interacted with me in the last 5 years, you've interacted with someone that wasn't a Christian anymore, or 4 years. So did you notice a difference? I personally have felt so much less anxiety and so much more peace, and I feel like to love and respect people more because I have no agenda with them whatsoever. So the other thing probably is, I'm not really looking for a debate. I really don't want to have people say, well, I'm praying for you guys. And I really perfect world, I don't want people to treat us any different, because I'm not any different. I'm not like a different person now. I'm just saying, here's what I've found that I think is reasonable. I'm going to not focus on God anymore because it doesn't make sense to me anymore. So if you could, I know the urge is there to say I'm praying for you and all that, but if you could just hold off, I'd really appreciate it. Because I think it would just put up a wall between us, and I don't want that. So
I'm praying for you.
Thanks, Jenny. The other thing is, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it.
We are going to stay married. You don't have to put that in the video.
Yeah.
Aaron said, I want you to be on the video because I don't want people to think that this is going to ruining our marriage or whatever. We are very, very happily married.
Yeah. People jump to all kinds of conclusions, and hopefully my goal in these videos was to just say, like, hey, this is like transparently what I was feeling and going through and what I arrived at, and I think it's reasonable. I cried out to God so many times for proof, for answers, for relief, for something. I received back a silence. And anxiety. So what am I supposed to do with that? That's kind of where I was at. I was like, God, what am I supposed to do with all this? And so I'm moving forward in the most honest way that I can. That's what I'm trying to do. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you guys later.